Morning news today. Parliament is to look at rules and procedures governing impeachment. Here's the background for you. Last year, the Constitutional Court ordered Parliament to amend Section 89 of the Constitution that deals with that particular issue. The court found the National Assembly failed to comply with its duties when dealing with former President Jacob Zuma. Unisa political science professor Dirk Kotze now joins us on Morning News today. Professor, good morning to you and thanks very much for joining us. I suppose the key question here is, why is this process taking so long, given that the Constitutional Court at the time told Parliament to act, and I quote it, without delay?
Well, the Parliament already established a subcommittee much earlier this year in January, and they have had quite a number of meetings. I think what interrupted the meetings were the appointment of President Ramaphosa, and then the urgency for that to a large extent disappeared. And I think, but it was unfinished business, and therefore at the same time Parliament was in recess for 2 months. So I think that is possibly one of the main explanations why they haven't completed their work yet.
Fair enough. So what exactly then will the subcommittee be looking at today? And are you able to point us to where the points of contention might be?
Well, some of the points of contention that they dealt with to some extent already is, for example, obviously the procedure. And one of the aspects of the procedure is that once there has been a motion of impeachment in the National Assembly, then what happens after that? In other parts of the world, what is normally the procedure is that it is referred to the upper house, like for example the Senate in the US, and they convert themselves almost into a court. In their case, even the Chief Justice presides over it, and then they go through the process, the charges against the President, and then have a vote right at the end, the 2/3 majority vote. In the case of South Africa, we don't have an upper house. The National Council of Provinces is not that type of institution. So the question is, who must then do that work do the investigation and come to a conclusion about whether the President is guilty of one of the 3 charges that's listed in the Constitution. A second one is to give meaning to the 3 charges in the Constitution. For example, it is about serious violation of the law, serious violation of the Constitution, misconduct, and the inability to perform the functions of a president. Now, they are very general in terms of their formulation. But when it comes to a charge against the incumbent president, in more practical and in detailed terms, what does it mean? Then thirdly, it is also about whether there should be this whole process, how to deal with the majority of the majority party, because there is the fear that the majority party will protect their leader, the incumbent president, from impeachment. And then the question was, but how to avoid that the political majority in Parliament becomes the decisive factor about the decision about impeachment. And then another question is about the idea of first a preliminary report that is coming from, well, so far the idea is that Parliament should set that the impeachment matter should be referred to a committee of Parliament after the vote in the National Assembly. But then, in the end, who is going to take the final decision and the procedure, the recommendations from this committee, what will be the process in order to reach the point where it can be referred to back to the National Assembly for the final decision and to vote.
All right, Professor Kotze, this all sounds fairly complicated to me. If I'm hearing you correctly, and help me understand this, is it very likely that this could all fizzle out because of the majoritarianism that you've just spoken about as far as the ruling party is concerned, and simply the detailed and complicated process that still needs to be followed before anything is either agreed to or can in fact get underway?
Yes, that is indeed so, and that is why this subcommittee of the Committee on the Rules of the National Assembly is so important, and that it becomes very technical there, and they will have to report back ultimately to the National Assembly, but they don't have a choice. It's an instruction of the Constitutional Court that they must do it, so there's no way out, that they can halfway leave this process and not conclude it. That it is ironic that we had an impeachment motion in Parliament in the National Assembly in April 2016 against President Zuma without these rules. And for me the question is, let's say for example they approved it then, what would have happened? I think it would have created the type of a constitutional void at that stage.
Professor Dirk Kotze from the University of South Africa in Pretoria, thank you very much for